There we go. We are live. Let me start the show with this. All right. Good evening, and welcome to Paranormal Files Into the Darkness. I am your new host, Michael Purcell, and I'm excited to have Brian Cano coming back on our show due to some technical difficulties the last time him and I were here. This will be our first episode, and welcome, Brian. I'm glad you're coming back.
Oh, thanks for having me again. New host, old guest. So let's let's get into it.
Yeah, let's just jump right now. I think the last show we did was recorded. This is live, so I'm excited, and I'm glad to have you back. So, what have you been up to since we talked last?
I feel like time is compressed, so that could be any number of things. But what I've been putting most of my energy into has been my history of the paranormal, mobile exhibits, getting it upgraded, getting it's constantly growing. So the last showing of it was just 2 weeks ago in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, and it's all right. West Virginia, check.
Nice.
I think we've been to 12 states so far, looking to get to all 50, but those Western states are bigger. It's harder to get to. The exhibit has its costs, so I'm trying to figure out logistics to get it out there. So that's where I've been putting most of my energy into.
Nice. And I think I saw somewhere you wanted to get all 50 states with that. Is this something that's mobile or something that
Oh, it's mobile. Yeah, it's a mobile exhibit. I mean, to do a brick and mortar one at this stage in the game, I mean, I would love to. If I were Bruce Wayne and Ed Cass, just to throw around and say, yeah, I'm going to do what I want, I would love to do that. But for right now, it's mobile. And because it's so, it has to stay kind of a certain size. Now, I would love to keep adding and upgrading, but if it's too heavy, if it's not literally mobile, then I can't do it.
No, that's wow. I can't wait to hear you getting all 50 states. When that happens, I'll have you back anytime you like. But we have to hit that 50th state. Yeah, we'll have to have you come back. But I see you have some upcoming events coming. Let me, if you want to share that with the folks, I have the banner here.
September is going to be a busy month. I mean, I know in August I'm doing Michigan Paracon, which I hear is going to be the last one, or at the very least the last one under the current management. So got to be there. Going to travel up to the Sioux one more time. Then in September, got a lot happening. Most notably, September 21st, I'm going to be up in Fonda, New York for a history and hauntings event at the old courthouse. Now, this one, the ticket price couldn't be cheaper. I think they're $28. Deluxe, full evening package is $35. So, in association with the Haunted History Trail New York State, we're going to have a workshop on how to research locations. So a lot of times people don't know what to do or are intimidated by the steps they need to take to research a plot of land, who's lived there before, who owns the house, etc. This event will have a workshop about that and then have an investigation in the evening.
Oh, wow. That's a good price, $28 and $35.
Oh, my God. Yeah. There can be no excuses aside from geography for people to not want to flock to this one. But then the very next week, I'll be in Lenox, Massachusetts at Ventford Hall, Gilded Age Mansion with John Zaffis for a very haunted collector-esque evening.
No.
It's going to be it's pretty much going to be Haunted Collector Live, except you're going to be in it. So that first sweep, and John breaks up the team, you're going to be on. He's going to probably send me to the basement. He's going to take the girls, go do an EVP session, and it's going to be up to the attendees to figure out which of the haunted items that are there or just which of the items, they might not all be haunted, is the one that was causing the problem. So instead of our team taking care of it, we're going to hand it over to them and say, all right, you guys tell us how the episode ends.
Oh wow, that is really interesting and intriguing. I might have to check out that one. It's the 21st for that the workshop.
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to see what we're doing. I don't think we have anything. So yeah, see how far that is for us for a drive to New York. Probably only a couple hours. But yeah, definitely 5 to midnight. I saw. So yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be a good time.
So do you still get out and investigate?
When I can.
Yeah.
When I can. I mean, everything I do is research based. I want to get closer to theory, actual paranormal theory, not Hollywood theory, not TV tropes. We need numbers. And for that, we need data. And this is not something we can just get in a weekend. So I'm just logging in those hours.
Oh yeah. Do you spend when you do go in when you have the time? Do you spend multiple days at a location, or
I do what I can.
you can? Yeah.
Again, the paranormal, depending on which corner of it you're in, it's a pay to play. So we all go to the famous locations because everyone's, this place is guaranteed haunted. I don't believe in that. That being said, the longer you could spend at a location, or if you could keep going back, that's great. The more chances you get to interact with something. But I'm really a believer that everywhere is haunted. We live on a haunted planet, and where we are, they are. But just some of the places that are more famous get more of the attention than others, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't forget, you don't have to go to a blank house to touch the other side.
Oh, definitely. I think we have our house with 3 or 4 entities here. We've had to investigate it, and we every now and then. My wife is sensitive a little bit, so it's interesting. We haven't had anything in a while, but one of the things was my parents were here, and
really?
had COVID, and they were in our back room. And one thing, my mom was like, the one morning, were you and Gwen talking about 2:30 in the morning? I'm like, no, we were sleeping. She's like, I heard voices, and I'm like, no, it wasn't us. And then another time, she was like, I saw a woman sitting at the end of my bed, and she's like, I put the covers up, and then she's like, I saw another man and a woman standing there, and a child come out of the closet, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that could be the 4 entities that we have in the house. Right. And it was just wild. Then the one night we put a recorder in the bedroom, and then I didn't know, my wife put a tape recorder outside the room, and after they moved out, because they were in an itch to get back in their own house after they both had COVID, they both stayed with us, and she was listening to the tape, and there was a woman's voice that just said, watch them. And it was like in a raspy voice, and it was wild. I was like, oh man. So she's been touched. I have, and I've heard a voice of like hello, like when I was out in the garage. So it's been a while since we had some. So yeah, I mean, and we are on farmland. It's not like we're on any special battleground or anything like that. It's just we're outside of a very small town here in Pennsylvania that used to be farmland. So yeah, I could probably agree with you there. Every place has something, and
every place, and that's the thing. Take a town like Gettysburg. Okay, yeah, there's a very famous battle, very big historical event that happened there. That, of course, yes, it makes sense why there would still be energy there. Not to mention the reenactments and the visitors and the tourism. It's keeping that place going and alive, so to speak, in activity. But the place down the block, or one town over, or your neighborhood, or anywhere, it's not famous. It's not a tourist location, but it can be just as haunted.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So speaking of haunted places, is there a place that's more memorable to you, or do you like going back to? I'm sure you've been to a lot of places.
This is akin to the what's the scariest place you've been to, or what's your favorite place, or what's the place. I'm bad with favorite questions. I'm bad with choose one because there's so many different things to take into account. But there's a place that checks so many boxes with me, and that's the Grand Midway Hotel in Windber, Pennsylvania. And I write about it in my book, Grains of Sand, Tales of a Paranormal Life, Chapter 7.
Oh, yeah.
The Circle of Fire. And just from that title alone, some stuff went down.
Oh
and
yeah.
drifted away. And this was a place that it really challenged me. It really pushed the boundaries of what I thought I knew, and it was instrumental in pushing me from skeptic to skeptical believer. But that process still took about 2 years to happen.
Oh wow. Wow. Interesting. So do you still do Paranormal Caught on Camera?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
We filmed the first half. Well, what I hope is the first half of season 7. The first half of the first half has already aired.
Okay.
The back end of it is being edited right now, and the editors take the summer off. So there should be probably more coming. I want to say maybe September, October.
Oh, nice. I enjoy watching that show, so that's why when you said you'd come back on, I'm like, yes. And I did say camera this time. I think the last time we recorded, I said film.
People say ghosts caught on tape, paranormal caught on. Morty, what's that show called? Paranormal caught on camera. It's very easy.
Yes. I watched the show. I actually just the other day I was watching it. Like I work from home, and I have the YouTube TV, and I was like, and I also knew you were coming on, but that's not why I watched. I watched it before you came on the first time, but I put on, and it's just so intriguing. Like I'll be working, I'll be listening to and watching the stuff, and just the stuff that people capture. It's like you got to guess, like, how could that be? Or like if they kept some like the images like the UFOs. Like I saw the one I recall was like a multicolor light, almost like a roundish triangle, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. And then was it the same episode or another episode on the western part of this had the same thing, and I'm like, yeah, it's makes you go,
Yeah, it does. And I mean, what I love about being on the show and what the show does, it's not an excuse me, it's not an investigative show. So we're not out there there's plenty of shows like that. So that there doesn't need to be another one. It gets the conversation started. It says, okay, we found this video from online or someone sent it to us. All right, let's watch it together. What do you think? And a lot of people say, oh, I thought that's crap. I don't believe in that one. I'm like, good. Mm-hmm. We're not saying, and again, I think one of the weaknesses of the investigation shows, and again, I know most of the people on the shows, I'm friends with a good deal of them, so this is not any shade being thrown at them. But when you watch the shows, anything that is put forward is pretty much saying, they caught it, don't question it, because if you question it, you're questioning them.
Right.
This one, please question it. Please look at every clip, every frame, dissect it, find the inconsistencies. And if it turns out that, all right, it doesn't pass our test, then we keep going. Now on the show, people will say, well, how come you guys don't debunk the videos? Well, that's not our job. The job is to bring them to you, the audience, to say, hey, well, what do you think? Mm-hmm. Because if we debunked it, why show it?
Exactly. Yeah. And I like the fact that you're not passing an agenda. Like, and I'm, again, not knocking all those other shows, but if they're, paranormal, trying to make it paranormal when it may or may not, you do leave it up to everybody to, interpret what they want to see and how they want to interpret that. So yeah, that's one thing I like about the show is you look at something, you're like, it could be, or, Well,
the producers are awesome. Like the entire team that puts the show together, everyone at Meeting House Productions, they are genuinely excited about the clips, and because they're not paranormal people per se, they'll look at it and go, oh my god, can you explain this for us? Like, how could this be? And I got to tell you, over the years, over the seasons, we're in season 7 now, there are producers that have been with the show since the beginning, and they have learned a lot. They'll interview us, and sometimes they'll go, okay, Brian, I know your answer, or I know what you're going to say about this one, and then they'll present whatever question they have. And I'm waiting to get a couple of them on an investigation just to see their paranormal chops, to see how much they've learned.
Nice. So the book you wrote, this is your first book?
It is.
How was the process for that?
The process was tough because Well, it was both tough and it was easy. The tough part was getting out of my own way and figuring out what to write about. Being who I am, I'm always questioning. I'm skeptical of others. I'm skeptical of myself. So I'm thinking, well, who am I to write anything authoritative about any subject? So for the longest time, I said, well, do I write about the team's experiences, the places we've gone? No, everyone does that and everyone has it. They're not going to care about ours. Do I write a manual, a how-to? Again, who am I? Who's gonna say, oh, this guy's the authority? And for the longest time, I didn't know what to do. And finally, my manager said, well, Brian, you've got a lot of stories. When I see you on stage, you're telling your stories. Just write about that. I said, you know what? You're right. And the very next day, I got out this pad of Post-its. And on each one, I'm like, okay, Grand Midway story. Oh, the time at the Lizzie Borden house. Oh, there was that time here. And I just had all these Post-its with all these tales of experiences that I've gone through. And who better to tell my story than me? So no one else could have written it. And it's not about a specific house or location or haunting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about me. And the funny thing about this, it kind of grinds my gears. On Amazon, you'll get people who buy it and they give it like 3 stars. They're like, oh, I was hoping there'd be some sort of proof in here. Like, proof? What proof? What proof can I give you that's gonna change your mind about something? It's called Grains of Sand, Tales of the Paranormal Life. If it was called Grains of Sand, definite proof, this is the book, fine. I made a promise that I didn't keep, but I didn't do that. And my Amazon rating suffers because of their ignorance.
Oh man, that's the creative process. That's pretty. I could just see the post. It's like when you got the vision, like the aha moment of what you want to write about, and then that's.
That being said, I am now back in my own way for the second book. It's been 2 years now, and I'm finally thinking, well, maybe I'll do this. I don't want to do more Grains of Sand.
Yeah.
I don't want to do just more tales. I feel that's lazy. For me, anyway. I have my concept. I know what I'm going to write about. Nice. This is going to require research, and I've got it. I have to do it the right way. I have to. It's going to take as long as it's going to take, which means it's probably going to take a long time.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to it as well. And then I know it seems like you want to get it right, so squeeze that in with the time, and just gotta have.
Well, I started writing a couple of months ago, and I got 2 chapters in. I had a good probably 10,000, 15,000 words done. I'm like, all right, here I go. I'm off to the races. And then something clicked, and I said, well, I need more of this. And what I wrote feels like more grains of sand. And I threw it out. I said, all right, back to square one. I was on square 2, but now I'm back on square 1.
Nice. Let me ask you, how did you get into the whole paranormal? Like where you say you're a skeptical believer now, so you weren't a believer, or was it something that you just like if they're there, they're there. If not,
The story. This is where Brian goes onto autopilot. This is the tale I've told many times, and is in the book. But when you're a kid, you believe in everything. You have no reason not to believe. No, very few children will you meet that are skeptical. Like, oh, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that. Because when you're a child, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Jesus.
Yeah.
Insert deity here, however you were raised. And as you get older, you start to lose some of those figures. And it puts, I don't know why we do this to kids, but it puts them in a state where they've been lied to. And that's okay. Don't worry about it. You're still getting the presents. You're still getting the things. So it's hard to know what to believe in. Mm-hmm. And by the time I got to college, I found myself having a crisis of faith. I was raised Catholic, but I found myself really in that God is dead space. Like, yeah, maybe we were created, but I don't think anyone's behind the wheel anymore because things are messed up down here.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're in college, you think you know everything. So at that point, I'm like, oh, yeah. The arms folded paranormal person. And by the time I got into investigating with my friends, I was the skeptic. But my goal was to prove that people are misdiagnosing things. It's not a ghost. And here's the logical, rational reason for it. And every experience I had, that whole process, reading, researching, going on cases, getting mentored, joining a team, starting a team, doing everything that I did over the years, each experience was a single grain of sand. Each grain you'd think, oh, this will be the one. Nope. Oh, this has got to. Nope. Grain of sand. I'm dropping them at my feet. And eventually, around Grand Midway time, I looked down, and metaphorically speaking, I was standing on a beach made up of all those grains of sand. And I had to consider what that meant. And it's not so much one. And that's the thing. People always ask, what's the one event that changed your mind? It wasn't, nor should it be.
Right.
If one thing could make you flip, I don't know. I don't know if I want to be that easily swayed. You don't want to be so skeptical that you're immovable, but you don't want to be naive either. Right. So it took me a while, and these days I'm still skeptical. I'm a skeptical believer because I know the phenomenon exists. Mm-hmm. It's the people who report it that I'm skeptical of.
Yeah, it makes sense. Very well said too. I mean, I'll agree with you there because you don't know what their intention is to deceive or anything. It's like rather than just presenting it or reporting it. Yeah. So
and that's the thing, and it doesn't always have to come down to fraud or an agenda or intent. Sometimes just it comes down to innocent ignorance. You don't know what you're experiencing, so you're just like, oh my God. How many times have we heard it's a demon? It's something negative. Well, how do you know that? At what point did the ghost say, oh, here's my ID from the Demons Union of 666. Just check it out. I'd like to check in as I will be your oppressor this evening. Thank you. None of this ever happened.
Right.
In 22 years of me doing this, never has a spirit shown me its ID.
There could be a first, though. Maybe the next 22 years.
I am open to the possibilities.
That's funny, though. Yeah. And I agree. I hear people sometimes say, oh, it's a demon. I'm like, did it do any kind of, is it negative? Did it do any physical to you? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, well, how do you know? Or why would you say demonic, whether, if it's not really being malicious? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And honestly, I mean, let's think, if you want to talk about demons, I believe they exist. I don't know if they're necessarily the way the media portrays them. I mean, they could be, but anything we experience is colored by those who first pen the description. So if this is biblical, if this is religious, yes, demons are going to be cast in a certain way, but negative is negative. A demon could be, well, here in the West, everything's very much Christian, so it's a demon. But go to the other side of the world, to Saudi Arabia. They're not concerned with demons. They're concerned with jinn. Okay? We're talking about these entities, these beings, these powerful spirits that are greater than us, older than us, higher dimensions. Well, that also sounds like extraterrestrials too. Higher levels of beings. So we could all be describing the same thing. Jinn, demons, aliens, all grays could all be the same thing. It just depends on who the observer is. You might get somebody from MUFON who's like, I don't believe in any of that ghost and spirit crap. But you tell them that there was a UFO sighting, and they're all ears. They're writing down in their book, and you tell them that you saw a gray. Okay, they're going to write that down as a close encounter. But meanwhile, maybe that was some spirit going to possess someone or oppress someone. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, true. Hey, we have some questions actually coming in. I've been so intrigued that I see somebody from New Jersey. Iradia said, I love there's a skeptical mind in reviewing videos. And have you had an experience that would, let me see, pull that up. There we go. So have you had an experience that you would never want to experience again?
Chapter 7, Grains of Sand, Circle of Fire, the Grand Midway Hotel. That was my one and only demonic encounter. Since we're talking about demons. Right. Again, 22 years I've been doing this. I've only had one demonic encounter. I'm happy to to let that be the one and only one. I've met people in groups who you're at conventions and they got the black shirt on. They're like, "Yeah, we handle demonic cases all the time." I go, "Do you? Do you all the time? We Sam and Dean? No, this is in real life." I'm going to go out on a limb and say these are very rare. Yes, I have colleagues and people out in the field who, yes, deal with that type of thing, so they will deal with it more often, and it's out there. But in the same respect, go to the woods. Bears live in the woods. When's the last time you saw a bear? You know they're there. We don't always see them. So I look at it like that. It's a part of our natural world. And I think you need to know enough to resist them. Know thine enemy.
Yeah.
Don't seek them out. Try to avoid them when possible. I don't want to fight one. I feel I'm ill-equipped. I just want to avoid them.
I agree. We got another one here. Egyptian princess. Are there portals in the woods to different dimensions?
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. I stay away from generalities to say this is where this is, that's where that is. Could there be portals in the woods? Sure, why not? Stable portals, situational portals, maybe portals that are used specifically by certain type of spirit. There's a whole subcategory of spirit that, again, when I say the general term spirit, that's the big all-encompassing ghosts, anything that fits into a non-physical paranormal being. So you want to get into fairy folk, sprites, brownies, boggarts, goblins, hobgoblins, kobolds, anything from the Dungeons and Dragons monster manual. They've been reported by people from different countries for generations, and it's part of their tradition. So could it be based on some fact? I'm inclined to believe that yes, there's a kernel of truth within a lot of our legends. So are there portals in the woods? Maybe.
There could be. Yeah. It's an interesting question, and portals for anything is interesting. Even with the Bigfoot and cryptids, portals.
Yeah.
One thing that sticks out to my mind is we do investigation. My wife also does. She spends more time investigating this Bigfoot than I do because of her schedule. She's a paramedic, so she's a 7 days on, 7 days off.
Oh wow!
Monday to Friday guy. And would I love to be out there with her? I mean, she's had an experience out at Salt Fork where she had a handprint you could see. She's also that same weekend she was there sleeping in the back of her Bronco, like the smaller version, and something black was at the back of the window and she couldn't see the neck up. It was like the chest down. So it had to be like over 7 feet tall. Rough.
Right.
Just and just like anybody else, she's out there investigating, but she was like, I didn't want to move. I didn't want to know I'm in there. I'm thinking it probably knew you were already in there.
Right.
And open it up like a sardine can and get but yeah. So but what I'm getting with the story is we somehow we got in contact with a gentleman just to the north of us, and we went to his house to investigate because he's had UFOs, Bigfoot kind of things going on and everything, and it's the pattern. It's really weird. Like when we started this, and it's been about a year since. It's been 7 months we haven't been there, but over the last year, like where he sees these UFOs, it's almost in line with a nuclear power plant.
I'm not surprised.
I've heard too of nuclear power plants drawing some sort of flying object, and
I've had experience with this. I have noticed a lot of times when weird things happen, I tend to be nearby nuclear power plants. I was leaving the Lizzie Borden house one time, and a whole list of weird things happened, and I just happened to note where there was a plant nearby. Penhurst is located a stone's throw from some nuclear cooling silos, and they're all over the place. They don't advertise like, "Hey, look, we're here."
Yeah.
But sometimes you're driving down a highway, and just over the trees, like, I didn't know we had that here.
Yeah.
And I mean, you talk about UFOs, you talk about cryptids. A perfect example how everything is under the paranormal umbrella, and that it's really all, you don't have to pick a category, it's all tied in.
Hmm.
The Mothman Prophecies, the book by John Keel. This is a book, you say Mothman, and everyone's like, oh, Mothman, cryptid. I think UFO, because in the book, chapter 1, he talks about Hans Holzer, he talks about Charles Fort, he's bringing in every thread of the paranormal playbook, and so much of what happened in Point Pleasant during that time had to do with sightings. And yes, some of them were of a creature-like thing, but there was never a report of flapping wings or a creature, but more of something that had a wingspan that just levitated up into the air. Main witness, Woodrow Derenberger. He was pulled over by some craft. Somebody got out of the car, or the craft came over to him when he was in his car. That craft, and I say craft because when the pilot or the passenger or whoever got out, the craft went up out of sight, so that anyone who was passing by on the highway would see him talking to somebody, but you're not going to look up and look to see if there's a Stades car up 10, 15 feet in the air.
Yeah.
But people all reported him talking to this figure. He had communication with a being that called itself Indrid Cold, who was supposedly from the planet Lanulos and had prophetic things to tell him. But you say Mothman Prophecies, everyone's like, oh, Mothman! So much more. So much more.
That's interesting. And let me get back to all right. They got your book, and I can't wait to read it.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, and they also have been a few places that have me the creeps, but only one that made me want to leave. I was a real estate agent. Okay.
I bet. I mean, you've got to sell a home, and sometimes it's empty, sometimes it's still furnished, and those people are on the outs. What energy gets left behind? Maybe it was there before, and that's why they moved. Yeah, I've heard a lot of crazy stories.
And then we got a
Egyptian princess. Yes, that's been reported several times. Yes, plenty of times where the report has been there was a launch, or there was something that was about to happen, some testing, and something was sighted and it shut it down. A friend of mine, musician Jack Hughes, wrote a song about it called Since 2017, and he's writing an expansion to that called They've Come to Take the Matches from the Child. And the thought being that, there are good aliens out there who don't want to see us destroy ourselves, as others of their kind have in the past. There's that whole thought that this has happened before, it will happen again. We're here to help you, but you guys just look like you're determined to destroy yourselves. And anytime I turn on the news or hop online, I'm inclined to believe them. So take the matches from the child. We shouldn't have them.
No, and I think I heard a story like that once before where somebody speculated the same thing. Like, they're there to watch over us, like, this whole, like, with the nuclears and stuff like that. So to prevent that from happening, I forget who I was talking to, but somebody also, hope I'm not misspeaking, but thinks that if they're from the future, they don't want us to do anything to change that. Like, if, and this could be wrong. I know I'm not making this up. I know I had a conversation with somebody who was talking about this, and that's
his name, Indrid Cold.
I'm not sure, or maybe I was just abducted, and that's what they told. That's what, after all the probing, that's what they stuck in my little brain.
There you go.
Like, because with this, it's like they're there to watch so we don't mess things up. It's almost like if watching Back to the Future when Marty goes back and then Doc tells him you can't do anything because you'll interfere with what's happening in the present if you go back. So maybe.
I love the Back to the Future movies. The trilogy I felt was a perfect rendition of time travel, and that's what I thought until now we get into quantum physics and we get into other multiple dimensions and chaos math. And I like Back to the Future because I understood it. It made sense. But you talk to any quantum physicist and they will tell you, if quantum physics makes sense to you, you're doing it wrong. So many things we don't understand. And if we talk about stacked time or multiple dimensions, and if time is indeed not linear, that's only how we perceive it. If it's all happening at once, like imagine all the channels on your cable box playing instantly and simultaneously on your screen, overlapped. The Battle of Gettysburg is happening right now as we're talking. The destruction of Earth, the sun exploding is happening right now. So could it be possible that they're looking back, or they're trying to change or avert or do some sort of pruning of the timeline? I think anything's possible. And honestly, I feel that as inquisitive a species as we are, our brains have only so much bandwidth. There's only so much hard drive space for us to understand the complexities of everything that exists. So we're going to get to a point where we understand everything we are capable of, and until we shuffle off this mortal coil, we're not going to be able to get any more information.
Very true. Egyptian princess also said, cool story, I think, that from the story previous. And then Irada, the government has acknowledged UFOs, and they believe Bigfoot is a real primate. The government is now finally recognizing the UFOs.
They've recategorized. They've shifted, and they say, okay, we're not going to call them UFOs because that could be misleading. They'll term them UAPs, and they still dance around the extraterrestrial question, because a UAP, an unidentified aerial phenomena, it's unidentified. It could be China. It could be Russia. They're saying, okay, there's things up there we don't understand and don't know. We go, oh, aliens. It's got to be aliens. They're like, oh, we're uncomfortable saying that. But they haven't acknowledged. But we know they're not going to. It's going to be a look over here. Oh, you don't have healthcare anymore.
Very true. And I've said this before. I think we have to be naive as a species and a race, that we are the only ones out there in a vast knowledge. I mean, just that we can't get past the moon, and these so-called UAPs, UFOs, and these species could get from wherever they come from to here. Because I read said saw one driving up the New York Thruway by the Adirondacks. I'm assuming that was a UFO or UAP. Let's see. And they also, I don't think we should.
No, we should not have it. Nukes are like lawyers. If you employ one, you don't win. Even if you win, you don't win. And we're doing damage to our planet. I mean, just look at what's going on in Fukushima. No one's talking about it anymore, but their water treatment plant is now beyond the capacity that they can contain or treat it. So now it's like, all right, it's just going to spill out into the ocean, and well, that's it. We're doing so much damage to the planet. Like, I don't care which side of the political spectrum you're on. We're making a mess.
No, I agree.
And it's not like one person's going to fix it, or it's just going to magically be great because an election happens. We should. I mean, I was talking to a friend about this just the other day about what we eat. And I was over in the UK 2 years ago, and the food there was fresh. It was good. I felt 10 years younger. I didn't have any headaches. I didn't need Pepto-Bismol like I do all the time. I come back home within a month. I just feel crummy all the time. And you look at our portions and the chemicals and everything that's going in our food, and the FDA is supposed to tell us what's fine, and everything's bioengineered. And you see, I'm worked up tonight. I don't know why. There's something in the water. Everything I'm getting worked up about.
Or it's in the air. But keep going, because I agree with you. A lot of people will talk or see on the news, and I don't watch news for the last I can't tell you, the last couple of years. It's just because if I find myself watching the news, I yell at the TV because it's like and my health is just more important. And one thing is, it's called global warming or global for a reason. It's not called like this part of the world. So like, when you hear about, oh, we have to fix global warming and they want to do it here in the United States, it's like the United States is probably the least one that's doing it. You have other countries, and if you don't get those countries on board, it's kind of like, it takes four wheels to run a car. You're not going to just fix the driver's side one if you're and run on three flats. It's got to be, all of them have to be fixed. And if they all can't work together to fix this, it's in the word global. It's not this chunk. It's just crazy. And I could get on with the same thing. And it's interesting. You said you spent some time in the UK. I haven't. I mean, I was just in the UK 2 weekends ago, but I was only there from like Wednesday to. We left Monday morning, but I never spent. My mom spent like a month in Italy, and now we here in the United States, what breads? What's the second one after bread? Pastas, rice, all that stuff that we're not supposed to eat because of the sugars and the fats, because that's going to make you fat. She spent a month there eating pasta. She's like, and it was Southern Italy where our family's from. She's like, there was no heavy people. They're eating pasta 3 meals a day.
They're having wine with every meal. They're getting air. They're getting exercise. The work mentality of the Western world isn't present there. People like, what's more important? Living, family, friends, experiences,
fresh food.
Man, I envy that.
Yeah, me too. Because I'm like, that doesn't make sense. If you eat pasta 3 meals a day here, and you're a skinny mini, you're going to be several hundred pounds in like it's like that. What was it? That one child that went to McDonald's like every day and he got fat, and then it's like he's to McDonald's. It's like, what did you think?
Yeah. What did you expect to happen? But that's exactly the thing. Everything has high fructose corn syrup in it because that was what was sold. That's pretty much what we bought, and now we've got to use. It's in everything, whether you need it or not. But damn, it makes things taste good, and we're all kind of addicted to things that taste good. We're like, I'll go on the diet tomorrow. I'll exercise later. I'll fight for this at another time, or I'll make good choices later. I'm 50 now. I don't know when I'm going to start, but it's got to be soon. Otherwise, there won't be a 60.
I'm 53, and I feel the same way. It's like, I keep saying I need to hit the gym. I need to hit the gym. And yet I'm still here, still round. But, I remember, it's probably about 10, 11 years. I remember somebody telling me, watch a documentary called Fork Over Spoon. And it really opened my eyes because, like, I was born in 1970. But it wasn't until, like, the 70s or late 70s in this documentary where obesity started coming around because of all the stuff, the hormones and the stuff you were putting into these animals. It's kind of like, okay, so like they make a big deal out of obesity, and true, obesity, I'm not a doctor, but obesity contributes to everything: heart disease, blood pressure. I know people who, they don't want to take insulin, whether they're young or old. Once they get diagnosed with the D word, diabetes, if they change their diet, they lose the weight, they lose diabetes. So it's kind of like whatever our food, and then again, our population's growing. And I cannot believe they were actually talking about lab-grown meat. To the day I would rather just hang myself.
There's a company in Australia that I think it was either last year or the year before. They were able to genetically grow a meatball. It was synthetic meat. I think they were, the next thing they were going to do, they were going to try to almost like Jurassic Park. They found mammoth DNA, and they're like, ooh, well, we could figure out how to fill in the things, but this is a pretty good chain. We could process this mammoth meat and use it to feed people. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm Thanos, but I feel like there's too many people, and we could just snap half of them away and go back to simpler times. I don't know.
No, I couldn't see doing. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the Impossible Burger or this Impossible meat. Like, I don't know. I've never been a vegetarian. I don't know if I'll ever be. I mean, I don't want to say I'm not, but I just don't see eating salads and non-meat. I mean, I like my meat, but I don't know. Is that geared towards health-wise or just because I'm thinking if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, do you really crave the meat? So I'm trying to relate that to like the lab grown meat. Like who in their right mind? And there might be people out there, and
Well,
I'm not knocking
it's
people when
for
I
us.
say this. This is my comment. For me, I want to be able to come from an animal, not a lab. I mean,
It's
like,
that's the thing. It's for us. It's for you and I to wean ourselves off of what they've got now. And that's the thing. I love a bacon cheeseburger. I'm like, yes, this is good. But then I'm driving down the highway and I see the truck next to me with the cows, and I know where they're going, or the chickens, and I know where they're going. But I want chicken tenders on demand. Again, in the UK, you had meal times at specific times. Like, all right, lunch starts at noon. It runs till about 3 or 4. Then there's no food, and then dinner is from like 5 to 8, 8:30. If you're lucky, you find a place that still has food, and it's because it's fresh. They're getting it that day. It's not sitting around or frozen or pumped with preservatives like ours is to keep a high shelf life. But
Yeah.
at first I was that American. I'm like, oh, I can't believe it. I can't get what I want to eat at 10 p.m. But then a couple days passed, and I said, you know what? Yeah, let's get off our butts. Let's make sure we're at dinner when dinner time is. And oh, this is good. This has flavor.
Yeah.
People say, oh, England, oh, everything's boring. No, it's real, and that's the disconnect.
Yeah, I was in Ireland
again.
I was in Ireland the same way. I mean, by 8 o'clock, things were shut down.
Yeah.
And same thing in the UK. I mean, one night my wife and I were like, we better get moving. It's almost 8 o'clock. And if it's anything like Ireland, things are going to start shutting down. And yeah, things were like closing or like 9 o'clock. And
me and some friends, we were wandering Bath, England. We had just spent the day in Stonehenge.
How was that? Somebody told me I should have went there.
Oh, you should. Definitely do it. We went to Stonehenge. We had a nice day. Got back to Bath, and we're thinking, oh, let's go get something to eat. We must have walked to every place in that town, because every place, either we didn't have a reservation, so we couldn't get in. You can't wait because there's only a certain amount of food, and the people with the reservations are going to get it. We ended up at a pub that was like our last ditch effort to find some food, and this was 8:30 at night. It wasn't 1 a.m.
Yeah,
but we were having a hard time finding it. But it was us and our way of we want it now, instantaneous and on our schedule, and that's not how things work over there. And
no,
I acclimated. I was out there for 3+ weeks. I acclimated, and I miss it.
It's nice. So you weren't too far from where we were. We were in Bridgewater, I think it's Somerset County.
Well, that was Bath was a day trip. I had a tour of Wales, and then after that, I spent a week just driving around the UK. I was based in London. But I said, you know what? Let me rent a car. I'm going to go drive to Loch Ness. I'm like, you can't drive a car to Loch Ness. I'm like, why not? It's far. How far? That's like 10 hours. I'm like, do you realize how big the United States is? I could be to Cincinnati in 12. Yeah, no problem. 10 hours. But to their credit, there's something magical and mystical about those M highways in the UK, because you're on them and it's just straight up, or it's this way.
Yeah.
And you're on it and you feel like you've been driving for 2 hours. I'm like, oh, I must be pretty far on right now. How long's it been? 20 minutes.
Yes.
Oh.
We did the drive from London down, and we stopped at Stonehenge on the way down, just in case we didn't make it back. And we never did. We just stayed down that way. We went to Wells and Glastonbury and that area. It's just to kind of stick around. We wanted to get back up to London. That'll be another trip. But yeah, driving back, we left like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And talk about boring. You're on that I think it was M5, just go.
The M5. Holy moly. And again, driving on the wrong side of the car, on the wrong side of the street. God bless them. They don't have the same type of aggressive drivers as we have. They're still aggressive and they're still angry at you, but they're not going to display it, because here I am. I'm in the extreme right lane, because to me, in my mind, that's the slow lane. Nope.
Oh, you and I would be perfect together over there. That's where I was on the way down from London.
I was on the right.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, okay, I'll just chill out in this lane and just coast. But meanwhile, that's the fast lane. And I'm looking around. When I get into that lane, there's nobody. drive for 20 seconds. And then all of a sudden I look in my rear view and there's a line of cars behind me. They're all probably mad at me, but not a single horn. I'm like, oh, let me get out of their way. And as I move over, vroom, 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 they all speed by me, meaning they were like, oh, who the hell is this in front of us? He's probably American. But they didn't, if that were here, I would have been cursed at, beeped at.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying good things about America in this podcast, but
No,
I do love my country.
I mean, we do get the aggressive. We do get the people in a rush. It's funny. I'm not trying to. When I say this, you're like, okay, Mike, just because I tell a story, you don't have to tell the story. But the same thing happened to me. I'm driving down. Now, it's funny. We have 55 miles per hour. All that. The speed limit is 50. We know. Ireland has the same things as England. It's a round white circle with the number and then the red. Well, that's kilometers up in Ireland. So the car I rented was in miles per hour, but the sign said 70. And I'm cruising at 70, and I'm like, I hope I'm not, because 70 miles an hour is higher than 70 kilometers. I'm like, I don't want to get pulled over. And I'm just doing 70, but I'm keeping up with traffic. Same thing. I'm in the right lane. I'm saying, all of a sudden, my wife goes, "Why is everybody going like this to you?" And I'm like, "I don't know why." And they're like, and I look over the young guy's driving. He's like, like this, and I'm like, "All right." So I pull over, and then whoop, in the middle lane, and she's like, "I think you were in the fast lane." I'm like, but I was doing 70, and then when I got
kilometers, which is like what, like 35, 40 miles an hour.
Yeah. And then I said, when I got to the hotel, we had dinner that night at the hotel. And I'm like, is this kilometers or miles per hour? They're like, miles per hour. I said, okay, what's your speed limit like over 70? I said, no, the rule of thumb in the United States is 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Some cops won't. The kid goes to me, well, it's 10% plus 2. I'm like, what? So he's like, so if you're doing 70, you could go 77 plus 2. You could go 79 miles an hour. If you're doing 40, it's 4 before plus 2 is 6. I'm like, oh, okay.
Too much math.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm a numbers guy, but oh my God, I'm driving down the road, 10% plus 2.
Well, on the M Highway up to the Highlands, I was going fast, but people were going faster than I was. And I eventually got very comfortable driving. So again, it felt just like home, with the exception of I'm shifting with my left hand. So that used muscles I'm not used to. I'm like, my arm was sore when I got home. But I noticed there's a lot of over these like things that you pass, these digital boards.
Yeah.
And I find out that there's cameras in them. That's why no one was getting pulled over, because they'll take your picture and they'll send you a ticket. They don't chase you down.
On the way to Ireland. I'm on the way to London. I'm like, I was trying to keep the speed because there was not many cars, because we had an 8:00 flight, so I wanted to get there like around 6. So it was early, and I'm like, are there really cameras? Because I'm like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I was paranoid because I'm thinking, how many cameras did I blow by thinking I don't see any troopers, so I'm fine. As long as I don't see a police car, I'll just vroom. I've got ground to cover. I got to get all the way up north.
Oh, that's crazy. And I concur. I remember somebody saying it's like a 4-hour drive to do something. And I'm like, 4 hours? I'm like,
that's nothing.
That gets me from here from my house in Pennsylvania to New York is 3 hours. Yeah. And that's with the traffic. Like Newark is 3 and all. And I'm like,
God, just to get across PA, for the minute you hop over into Easton, that's 6 hours. You were dealing with 6 hours to get to Pittsburgh and then into Ohio. That's a haul, because there's nothing to see on 76 or 70.
Or you drive 80. That's the way. 80 is nothing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, 80 is even worse.
Exactly.
But you do it. As long as, with me, as long as there's a Sheetz to stop at, I'm happy.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. We have Sheetz in our rear. So, 80 is not too far from us in 81. So, I know 81 is a little better, but no. And I'm thinking 4 hours, that's nothing. And like you said, 10 hours to get up there. My first trip, my son wanted to see Dale Earnhardt Jr., his last race at Talladega. I'm like, all right, let's go. We did the 12-hour drive. And for me, for some reason, going all the way down to Alabama, 12 hours didn't see. I was like, man, this is pretty good. Yeah. And then the next year, I'm in a crew for Mardi Gras that's always on the Sunday before Fat Tuesday. And my wife, then we were dating. I'm like, you want to go to New Orleans? I said, why don't we drive? Because she went with us. We just started dating. I said, come with my son and I. We'll go to Alabama. And I said, let's use Alabama as the thing. If we get 12 hours, we want to pull over, we'll just get a hotel and continue on. We did the 17 hours straight going to New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And with her driving just the last maybe 5 hours. And I was like, but yeah, to hear them say 8 hours or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, from my place, I can make it down to Atlanta, Georgia, in probably 15.
Okay.
And yeah, sometimes it's middle of the night, you're tired, the lines are hypnotizing you, and yeah, it's a little hard, but you do it. And we're spoiled out here on the East Coast because you can do that and be in plenty of different states in just a 4-hour radius. Once you start going west, and those cities get further and further apart, like, yeah, you're in a state for a long time, seeing nothing before you get to the next town.
Oh, and I hate Virginia. I really, if there is a portal, that question about portals, I always say this when we drive to we do the Bigfoot conferences, because my wife has a brand called Got Knockers. So we're trying to get that out there and everything. And I said, I really wish when we hit Virginia, there'd be a portal to just blow us through the state. Because it's like, I think every sheriff is out. Most of the times they're out.
Well, if you're heading down 95, like, and you stay on the Eastern Corridor, but then you think you can make up time and go that mountainous route, you better have gas in your car. Otherwise, forget it. There's nothing out there. There's nothing. I made that mistake once.
Wow. All right, let's see some comments real quick. We have we have a lot of stuff between your audience. They said food in Mexico is fresh too and delicious. Another one is the food in the UK has no GMOs, no additives, and no chemicals. So that's
correct.
What you were saying. Yep. Boggles my mind how bad our food is. I guess it's deliberate. I guess whatever it takes to sell.
Obtuse. Are you being obtuse? Is it deliberate?
That's a statement. I mean, you gotta have the shelf life, even though there's put an expiration date on stuff. Expiration date on water. I don't know how water goes bad, but yeah, okay, whatever it takes to sell more. Global warming. People don't want to think critically. They're drinking the Kool-Aid. Very true. Somebody grew up on a farm in Puerto Rico. PR. I'm thinking Puerto Rico. The elders of the village were 90 plus, without diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. Wow. So we have another one. My grandfather grew his own coffee and roasted it over a wood fire. Best coffee ever. Now I'm hungry, thirsty for coffee. And then back to traffic. We got take the train or fly to Loch Ness.
Nope. It's the journey. Stopped in Manchester, stopped in Glasgow. No, I'm driving.
Yeah. The train ride wasn't bad. I was in Glasgow and I did the train ride to Edinburgh. It was like a couple pounds at the time. It was a couple of years ago, a Christmas trip. And it was really nice to see the countryside. And I was thinking, but I would agree. Drive. And I never drove up until I went to my wife and I got married in Ireland. So the first time over there, you were saying about the stick on the left side and shifting within. We pull out of the rental place. We get to the hotel. We're going to go grab something. And the car's pulled right in front of the hotel. And I could drive stick. I used to have an old Land Rover truck that had the right-hand drive, so I could shift to the left. We're sitting there for 10, 15 minutes. And I can't get in reverse. I can't get it out. I'm like, we're going to be driving through the hotel. Then somebody comes up and taps on the window. They're like, you need help? I'm like, what's the trick? You had to lift up there's a button under the shifter. You had to lift up to get it in the reverse. And I'm like, don't forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The roads up in Scotland is designed to kill you because all the roads are thin, twisty, and there's beautiful, magical things to look on every side of the road. So as you're looking, you think you're driving straight, but meanwhile you're veering off into a gulch, and there's another car coming at you at 80 kilometers on the other side. Like, whoa! Oh, I must have almost crashed so many times. I'm like, look, a rainbow. Oh, look, that's where Highlander was filmed. Oh my God, look, beautiful country.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list. To to go to Northern Ireland and go to Scotland. So I'll have to learn. I'll drive there.
Northern Ireland was great too.
So you drove in Ireland before?
Northern Ireland was a separate trip, but my hosts there were unaware that a lot of Game of Thrones was filmed there.
Oh, okay.
So we went on a Game of Thrones filming spot tour. We just kind of hopped in the car and we kind of hit all these places. So that was a lot of fun.
No, that's cool. One thing, the first time I drove overseas was when we went to put our marriage license in, and we had to rent a car. And on the roads, there was like, there's 2 lanes, all that good stuff. And then you get on those small country roads that are a lane and a half.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, it's like there's no line, no nothing. It's just there's the end of the road. There's a side that looks like, just bushes and brush until you realize, and that's on the passenger side. And my wife was like, you're going to hit the bush. I'm like, it's just a bush. She's like, no, if you go too far over, there's a brick wall or a stone wall.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's this dump truck, like a garbage truck coming flying at you, a bus and a tractor trailer. And I'm like, what in God's name are they doing? And all you think is we're going to get killed because they're going to take a mirror off. And somehow miraculously you fit on a road. I don't know.
You've got to get adjusted. You've got to get acclimated to the width of your vehicle very quickly. Like there's a section of road next to Loch Ness that is just one. It's like a path. It's just, I wouldn't even call it a road. It's a path. It only fits one car.
Yeah.
You have to hope you get as far down that path as you can before something comes on the other side. But there are pull-offs, so you kind of have to. If you see another car coming, who's gonna pull over? You have to pull off into one of those little divots.
Oh yeah.
The other car by.
Iridia says, "I'm a Jersey girl driving a turnpike as a sport."
Turnpike is nothing. It's one road. It goes up and down. Child's play.
The 80 is boring. Somebody agrees with me there. They did a 13-hour drive from North Jersey to Savannah. Oh, and then the Egyptian princess left out portal through Virginia, isn't that true? Oh, and they don't like Virginia. It was a changes in, the speed limits. Yeah, 60, 65, 70. It's like, why can't you just keep it all at 70? But Pennsylvania's like that at 70 on 80. Yeah. You'll be at 65 and then be 70 all the way where it's crazy. So. All right. Well, I know we're at just about an hour. I want to respect your time. It's getting late. I'd love to have you back because I could keep on talking.
Sounds good.
Is there anything else you would like to say, promote? I mean,
no, just the couple events we talked about. Anyone who wants to keep up with what I'm doing can go to my website, neverstopsearching.com. If you want to become a part of any of the projects that I'm doing, you can join my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Brian J. Cano, and things like that fund my exhibit, my film projects, and I have an apprentice tier level on my Patreon where if you want to learn, say, parapsychology or ghost hunting 101 or whatever you want to learn in the paranormal, I have a dedicated mentorship program where I teach you various aspects of the paranormal.
Oh, wow. And I am definitely going to, as soon as we get off, I'm going to be to my wife, what are we doing September 21st?
Yes.
So, because I am intrigued and join that. I said thanks for the chat. Well, thank you for joining us. This is the first show. I'm the host. If you like what you see, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and you'll be notified. It's somewhere over here and up there. I like that. Can I use that for? Can I use you do that for the channel? Again, join us. We won't be back here on the 15th, but on the 29th, we'll be back for another show. Thank you, Aurelia. Please join us. And Brian, thank you again for coming. And I look forward to either meeting you on the 21st or having you back again on the show.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Thank you. You have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.
Okay. Check us out. Let's see. Oh.
This has been a CARC Universal production.